Merry Christmas and happy holidays to you and yours, but we still got football today. Week 17 predictions, best bets, and more. Amir, you're joining the show. First off, happy holidays. What's something on your Christmas list?
Oh man, on my Christmas list right now, a new set of knees for this football season next year.
But let's get right into it here with our power rankings here on the week. Of course, Washington's going up. Philly's going to drop a couple spots, and we'll talk about why. At number 10, Amir and I pretty much had the same list this week, so we're going to talk about it together. The LA Chargers at number 10. They got a big win on Thursday night against the Denver Broncos. Broncos haven't looked great, and they're still fighting for their playoff lives. But the Chargers, as of right now, with that win, really look solely in that number 6 position. They move into our top 10. At number 9, Pittsburgh, Amir. Why do we have Pittsburgh here?
So Pittsburgh, this team, you know, uh, you kind of saw the offense kind of stall a little bit without George Pickens, but now he's back. The defense is still great. They're still well coached. They can still win games. Russ is still balling out, and now Pickens is back. I think 9 is the perfect spot for them, right under all these other teams. Because the other teams above them are also playing great football as well.
Yeah, I mean, George Pickens might be the MVP of the league because that offense looks completely different when he's
Yeah.
out there compared to when he's not. Washington at number 8. Look, it's not their fault that Jalen Hurts, if I can talk correctly, it's not their fault that he went down. So they took advantage of the situation and got a huge win, really cementing their spot in the playoffs. But now it's just about positioning. So big win or big game here against Atlanta. If they can win, it's going to help their position in case maybe if Green Bay can lose one. You get the picture. But Amir, I will say you had Pittsburgh over Washington. But again, that's the only change that we had on our list this week. At number 7 and 6, Amir, I'll give you the floor here. Baltimore and Green Bay, two teams that stayed in their same exact spots on both of our lists. Why is that for you?
So in that seventh spot for Green Bay is playing amazing right now on both sides of the ball. And we saw last matchup against the Saints, despite the Saints are terrible, they absolutely smoked them. And the thing that's most impressive about Green Bay is that they can really score in any single way. They have a great running back, great tight end, great receivers that can air the ball out. Their offense is overall well balanced, and the defense is amazing too, and they create turnovers. And for Baltimore at 6, in my opinion, I think these two are interchangeable.
Yes.
The reason why I have Baltimore over Green Bay is because this Baltimore offense is that good. The defense obviously has been struggling all year long, on the back end at least. But this offense could score on anybody. It does not matter. And that's the thing about Baltimore this year is like, they're like a well balanced offense this year too, man. And people like to go ahead and just like underrate this receiving core and this passing attack. But Derrick Henry is one thing, but Rashad Bateman hasn't playing great this year. Zay Flowers hasn't playing great, and this receiving core is extremely underrated too.
I think the receiving core is going to be the X factor here come playoff time for this offense to really not be so one dimensional. At 5, 4, and 3, I kind of grouped these teams together because Amir, they all handled business, right? They all won the games that they were supposed to win last week. I think all three teams have, well, aside from the Bills, big games coming up this weekend. And again, I think there's no reason to really move them down a spot. So we both, again, together had them staying at 3, 4, and 5. Amir, who's your favorite team out of this bunch of teams here? I guess going forward, is it Buffalo, Detroit, or Minnesota?
Well, out of the team I'm most confident in, it's definitely Detroit. But the problem with Detroit, obviously,
The injuries.
the injuries, and that's a huge thing for me. And for Minnesota, my biggest problem is Sam Darnold still. Darnold's been playing great, but I'm worried because there's still moments where it's like, hey, it's like Sam Darnold, like, come on now.
Yeah.
It's kind of holding this team from back from really propelling forward even more. Because I'm not gonna lie, this Minnesota team could very well be 15-0 or whatever, like
Yeah.
undefeated, which absolutely sounds crazy, but I think this team is that well coached and that talented. But um, the team right now I'm going to be most confident in is Buffalo because Buffalo beat Detroit. They have Josh Allen and
And Kansas City.
right, yeah, right, and so for me it's going to have to be Buffalo, even though the entire year. I've been saying the Buffalo team scares me just because of the defense is sort of lackluster in talent and offense as well. But Buffalo's kind of shown me otherwise.
I saw an interesting stat yesterday that Buffalo's only had three starters injured all season. So they've been one of the healthiest teams this year. And we saw a team like San Fran make a run last year when they were healthy. So maybe Buffalo, this can be their year if, again, they remain healthy. At 1-2, Philly drops the spot. And I will say this right now. They were up 21 to nothing before Jalen Hurts went down with an injury. They would have won that game and they would have easily been the number one team on both of our lists this week, but they didn't. They lost the game, and I know it's not really their fault necessarily, but they didn't. I don't know, right? Again, I think going forward, we can easily see them reclaim the number one spot once Jalen Hurts decides to come back. The big question is, when does he come back? Of course, with a concussion injury, how soon do you want to rush a guy like that back, especially with playoffs right around the corner? Now, Kansas City, they just find a way. It's never pretty. They never blow teams out aside from the Browns. They just find a way to keep winning. They're 14-1. If they win this week against the Pittsburgh Steelers on the road Christmas Day, they're going to lock up that one seed for, I believe, the third year in a row, if not two out of the last 3 years. But that is our Week 17 power rankings. Next week, of course, unless it's the same exact list again, we're going to be doing them separately as we've always done. But ladies and gentlemen, this is the home stretch playoffs right around the corner. Last week, Amir, of course, you got the edge on me, and this came on Thursday night. I switched my pick last minute to Denver. I had a hunch, and it was wrong. Good thing I didn't bet on it, right? But the Chargers took care of business. You were 11-5, 10-6 for myself, and there's a 5-game difference between us on the season. Of course, both of us are around 70% correct rate here, guessing the money lines of these games throughout this season. Now this week is kind of like Christmas, right? You get a little bit every single day, right? You get some games on Wednesday, we get a game on Thursday, three on Saturday, and then we get our normal Sunday slate. So it's going to be very digestible, and you're going to be able to watch a lot of these games from start to finish throughout this Christmas weekend. So starting on Christmas Day, of course, we have Kansas City and Baltimore, two road teams getting the wins there. Seattle getting a win there Thursday night against the Bears. That's going to be an ugly game. I guess there's supposed to be a lot of snow there in Chicago. On Saturday, the Chargers, the Chargers, Cincinnati, and the Rams. We'll come back to that Cincy game here in a moment. Tampa Bay and Buffalo opening up early Sunday slates with some wins there. The one game I want to highlight, Amir, and we can go to a Christmas Day game if you'd like, but I think the biggest game in this early slate is Denver going to Cincinnati. Cincinnati's might be the scariest team in the league right now with how that offense is going. But Denver, of course, right now, it looked like a foregone conclusion a couple weeks ago that they were going to make the playoffs. But after a loss to the Chargers, there's a possibility if they lose this game, they could miss the playoffs if the cards fall right for the Cincinnati Bengals. Amir, your thoughts on that Saturday matchup? Can Denver hold on to their playoff hopes, or is Cincy going to continue to make this interesting going forward in your eyes?
I'm gonna be completely honest. Okay, wait. So Cincy needs to go ahead and just get this right. Cincy needs Denver to lose out, and they got to win out.
Yes. They also need
I'm
the
gonna be,
Colts to lose a game.
well, the Colts suck. So,
Well, and again, Denver plays Kansas City next week in Arrowhead.
my biggest concern is the fact that like once Kansas City wins today, which I think they will, they're 100% resting Mahomes. And he has a bad ankle in Week 18, and so the question would be, do you think that Carson Wentz can beat that Denver team? I'm not sure because this Denver team is a good football team, and Kansas City, um, they have some solid talent, but it's like they're gonna rest Mahomes, Kelsey, probably even Chris Jones. Pacheco's definitely resting because his leg is still a bit banged up. And so for Cincy, man, it's gonna be tough. I still don't see them making the playoffs, but as far as this matchup right here, I think Cincy wins. Denver's looked great for weeks. Some highs, really some lows. I mean, even last week against Indy. Bo Nix did not play well. They still find a way to win because Indy is that bad. And then this past week against the Chargers, they start the game off great. And then Bo Nix, he started to get to his mode where it's just him just being a rookie. Despite him being 25 years old as a rookie, it's still his first year in the league. There's still moments where he sort of kind of floats under that pressure. And I think in a game like this, where we've seen this Denver defense that's labeled as elite, sort of get annihilated at times. I think Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase Higgins are going to tear this defense up this week.
I think, Amir, this is an interesting situation because, and I want to ask you this question, right? So let's say Cincy wins this game. It comes down to a situation there in week 18. If you're Andy Reid and you're Patrick Mahomes, who would you rather play? Like, again, they would have the one seed, but who would you rather have in the playoffs? Would it be your divisional rival, which, if you match up with them in the second round, it would be your third time playing them this year in the Denver Broncos? Or would you rather have Cincy somehow make a run? I mean, again, they're going to be the hottest team in football if they meet you in the second round. And we know there's some history there. If there's any quarterback in the league that's had any playoff success against Mahomes, it's been Cincy. But again, that defense is absolutely terrible. If you're Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes in the second round of the playoffs at home, would you rather face Cincy with that defense or Denver being a divisional rival?
Honestly, I'd rather face Denver. And the one thing you can't really replace is the fact that Bo Nix is a rookie. It's his first year in the league. And so me, I'd rather play Bo Nix and the Broncos over the Ravens
I agree.
and Lamar over Cincy and Joe Burrow over Buffalo. Despite how bad that defense Cincy is, that Cincy offense could score on anybody. And,
Right.
and like and Cincy played KC in week 2, I believe. And so from week 2 to now, that Cincy offense is 10 times even better, which is absolutely scary. And I'm be honest, like if KC, at times, Mahomes turn the ball over, they're making mistakes. I don't know if KC could beat them for a second time.
Yeah. I that'd be definitely an interesting game
That
there.
would be crazy.
It would be. It would be, especially
That
when
would
we
be
look at the
crazy.
odds like a month ago, since he had no shot at the playoffs. They were 4-8, and now they're 2 games out. Here is the rest of the early slate, the mid slate, and of course Sunday, the late games here for Week 17. We agree on almost all of them. The Raiders in New Orleans. My only thing was honestly the tipping factor was it's gonna be Spencer Rattler versus Antonio
Yeah.
Pierce, and the way that Antonio Pierce was, I don't know, maybe it was just the post game presser where I gained confidence in this team again. But I think, hey, maybe Brock Bowers has a day. Of course, he has history in the Mercedes Benz Dome, given his history at Georgia. They were there a lot, right, in the college football playoff. But again, I'm just going to go with the Raiders in that one. You go with the Saints. The rest of the slate we agree on, besides this NFC North matchup. And Amir, this is where
It's tough.
I need you to do some quick memory with me, really quick. Back in 2020, of course, the world was talking about Joe Burrow. Who's the one quarterback that I continued to bother you guys about? And I said, this is my favorite quarterback in the class. Who was that in 2020?
Jordan Love.
Jordan Love. We used to have Madden franchises, and I used to absolutely just try and destroy the game with them. But I bring that up because I have been on this bandwagon, and I got someone to back me up on that. This is where I gotta. This is where I gotta rely on him. This is where I gotta. I guess lean on my belief in Jordan Love. And on the road against Minnesota, it's a tough matchup. Don't get me wrong, but this is where I believe in the quarterback. I think they have the better quarterback. Matt LaFleur is 19-2 in his career in December. I know it's on the road. I know Minnesota is a great team, but I'm going to roll with Green Bay in an upset here on the road again in Week 17, and this is going to help them for positioning there, especially because maybe Minnesota rests their guys in Week 18 because they have no shot at the one seed at that point in time. Amir, I'm going with Green Bay in an upset here on the road. Your thoughts? Why are you going with Minnesota at home?
Man, this game is so tough. And I'm gonna be honest, I might end up switching to Green Bay. That's how close it is. It's partially my fault for literally just making my picks last night, kind of rushing through it, having to hurry up.
Yeah, we
Because
are recording this early. So,
yeah, because normally I look through my picks earlier in the year, or not the year, but the week, and I kind of think about some picks and kind of wait. But this one, I'm going to lean towards Minnesota as of now because Minnesota just looks great, man. And
yeah.
I keep saying it. My worry is Sam Darnold, but this Minnesota team is just so talented, and kind of looking back at earlier in the year when Green Bay matched up against Minnesota. Obviously J Love wasn't fully healthy, but Minnesota could really suppress and kind of stop that rushing attack by Green Bay, and that's the
Yep.
biggest thing. Like watching the game last week against New Orleans, Green Bay, I want to say gave like 8 dudes rushing attempts, and they were just running all over New Orleans, and so I think in this matchup it's going to be different. Josh Davis is going to be kind of slowed down a bit. Minnesota's pass defense does have a bad habit of giving up big plays. We kind of saw that last week against JSN and DK.
Yes.
Um, But Jalen also has a history of turning the ball over. I mean, he has to throw the pick in what, like 6 weeks or whatever, 7 weeks
Toyota
now. But
time. It's the Jordan Love
right,
Toyota.
yeah. But right now I'm going to lean towards this loaded Minnesota team.
Yeah. Now, again, it's hard to argue. A team that only has two losses on the season at home, they're
It's
firing and they're fighting for the number one seed.
it's
Hard to
close
argue
though.
against that. Sunday night, big game for Michael Penix. How is he going to respond now that there's a little bit of pro tape on him? And Washington has a full week to prep for him in prime time. Interested for that matchup there. Now, Monday Night Football, I think, can get ugly, Amir, just because there's history
Yeah.
between these two. They played, of course, in the NFC title game last year. Detroit was up by 20 points and they blew the game. So I'm interested. I think it's either going to be a blowout or San Fran's going to make this really interesting at the end of the game. Maybe even pulling off a win despite all their injuries and that they've had all season long, but especially right now, most notably with Trent Williams. But let's get into it here. I've added some things here because some of you guys have asked me where we are getting these picks. And of course, I wanted to provide that this week. So, my best player prop on the week, and Amir and I both decided we're going to focus solely on these Christmas Day games because, well, that's coming up tomorrow or today, as when you guys are seeing this. And let's have some fun on Christmas Day, right? Let's rob at the sports books. This is a player that is like bam on a bio. It is like certain players in the NBA where you just don't bet on. And I've never bet on Zay Flowers, so this is going to be my first time. I'm going to take his over 57 and a half receiving yards. He's covered this in 6 of the last 7 games, of course, this season. And Rashad Bateman's banged up, right? So I think Zay Flowers, if they're going to win this game on the road in a potential shootout against Houston, they're going to need to put up points and they're going to need to put the ball in the air to relieve Derrick Henry. So Zay Flowers over 57 and a half. I love that line. Now, Amir, you got a guy that's covered his line in 9 of his last 13 games dating back to last season with a different team. Your thoughts and what is your player prop on the week?
Yeah, I'll be honest. This line was way too low. And watching that game last week, Hollywood Brown came in, only playing 27% of snaps and had 5 receptions and 8 targets. And I had to go back and double check on everybody else's snap count. I mean, shoot, Kelsey had an 88% snap count
Yeah.
rate. Hopkins had 49. Justin Watson had 53. Juju even had more, had 36%. And freaking Hollywood Brown still had way more production than all of them. And so, looking at last week, seeing the fact that he barely even practiced last week, his first game back from injury, it's obvious Casey wants to got to be the number one receiver. And so, I think this week it'll be the same. I think he's going to get fed, going to get anywhere from like 7 to 10 receptions, and he's going to ball out.
Yeah, I think they're gonna have to abuse this speed against Pittsburgh to win this one. Their favorite spread pick on the week. My pick was your pick, Amir, but I'm gonna leave that to you because I had the luxury of seeing it before. You guys are seeing it at home, but I'm gonna go with the Ravens. I believe they win by at least a touchdown here against a banged up Houston Texans team that offensively has not been as great as they were last year. So they're definitely gonna have to figure some things out going forward. But losing Tank Dell definitely pushed the needle for me. And even last week, when everything was going in their way, they still lost handily, right? So I'm going to go with -5 here. I've seen that on a couple different books. 4.5 this morning, but then it jumped up to 5.5 and then 5. This line is moving. So if you want to bet on it, get on it now. But Baltimore -5, I could see them winning like 27-20 on the road there in Houston. You're going with another road team, Amir. What is your pick here on the week?
I'm going Kansas City -2.5. This is going to be really, really close, just because Casey has some games where they literally have won by like 2 points. I think for like 4 or 5 weeks, it's been like that. So tread lightly with this pick. I would recommend taking an alt line. But then at the same time, I think +2.5 is way too close. So I think -2.5 is kind of that. It's kind of like that little middle range. But me personally, honestly, that -5 was way better.
Yeah.
You also brought up a great point. Like that Houston offense does not look good. I think Baltimore's about to go in and smoke Houston on the road.
Yeah, I think this could be one of those last second, hey, look at the season I had performances from Lamar Jackson. I could see this being another
Yeah.
4 to 5 touchdown game, and he kind of puts his name back in the hat to be a serious MVP contender. Over unders on the week. Again, we're sticking with these Christmas Day games. I'm going with Kansas City and Pittsburgh under 44.5 points over on DraftKings as of this morning. Now, I just think it's going to be ugly, right? Maybe bad weather there in Pittsburgh, and both teams are accustomed to bad weather, so that really shouldn't slow them down. And Pittsburgh gets George Pickens back this week, but I could just see this being like a 20-13 game, right? 20-17 kind of a game where Amir,
Yeah.
like you said, it covers that 2.5 spread. I could see Kansas City maybe getting a last second field goal to win this one. So I'm going to go under 44.5 points. I know it's might be a little bit scary, but again, I think it's going to be a defensive game here as both teams have a lot to play for. You, on the other hand, Amir, are going under in the other Christmas Day game.
Yeah, I'm be honest. I'm gonna switch this to over. Just
Over,
because
okay.
I think Baltimore's gonna put up at least 30 plus points. Baltimore could drive on anybody. I keep on mentioning it. This Houston defense has shown a lot of holes on all three levels this year so far, despite all the talent they have. I mean, shoot, I watched them get in a shootout with Jacksonville a couple weeks ago. I think Baltimore's gonna completely score 30 plus points on them.
Yeah.
So,
Maybe like a
I meant to
30 to
put over
17
on
kind of a
this.
game.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, if your team sucks, Amir, this is your favorite segment of the show. We're Browns fans, and we're finally back in the picture. So, Cam Ward, you are a Cleveland Brown if the things fall right. But here is the updated draft order going in to week number 17. The Giants jump up to number one. New England, Jacksonville, and Tennessee follow behind, also jumping up a spot. Cleveland jumps 2 spots here to get back into the top five. And the Raiders, Amir, they had Shador in their back pocket. They
Yeah.
went out there, won a game, and I know the players don't really care about it. It's more so the front office, but they won a game and they dropped all the way to 8. That's an absolutely insane drop at this point in the season,
It's
and with all these
crazy.
bottom feeders, Amir, I don't really think any of these teams, unless they play each other, are going to win another game this season.
Hmm.
So the Raiders are going to have to make some calls this offseason to get a Shador Sanders at number one. Amir, any additional thoughts on this on these teams? Do you see any of these teams maybe winning a couple games here to close out the season?
I'm gonna be honest. All these teams are terrible. I think they all lose out, especially the Giants. It was obvious last week that are just trying to tank. Which I mean, I don't blame them. The Raiders and Antonio Pierce. And the thing about tanking is like, um, I hate losing, and
Yeah,
so it's tough for a coach to go out there and just convince his guys to
take the foot
lose.
off the grass. Yeah,
Right, and guys are trying to play for their families and stuff like that. So I completely understand why the Raiders won. People are freaking out saying, "Oh my gosh, the Raiders should have lost." I mean, hey, listen, worst case scenario, the Raiders could just trade up, move up, whatever. The thing I'm kind of thinking about is Cleveland, and me, you, and Bakari mentioned it, a couple weeks ago was like, I could really see us grabbing a guy like Dylan Gabriel. Not saying I want that, but it's like
right.
at this point, Shador's definitely going to New York. I think Tennessee's going to go and grab the QB. It'd be stupid if they didn't. They might grab Cam Ward, or
Yeah.
the Raiders are going to really try to push the trade up. And so for Cleveland, I mean, I don't really see who else we're going to grab. That's not
Maybe
a
it's like a
quarterback.
Ted McMillan, right? Maybe we go after Kelvin Banks, an offensive lineman there. And then, like you said, I don't want it to happen, but maybe we go after a guy like Dylan Gabriel in the second.
I mean, we honestly could. And, I mean, in my opinion, it wouldn't be the worst thing. I mean, he's already kind of paused a little bit. He's already, somewhat ready to kind of be thrown out there, because of his age and his experience and stuff in college football, playing on different offenses and stuff like that. And so, Stefanski had success with Baker, a guy who's a Heisman candidate who came into the league already older. I believe Baker was like 23, 24,
Yeah,
coming
yeah.
into the league. And so, it kind of be the same story with Dylan Gabriel. You have him kind of learn behind Winston. Hopefully we bring him back, and hopefully for the season we can kind of start the year off winning some games. Kind of different than this past year.
I've been joking about it, but I've been saying that we should try and bend the rules and just grab the draft rights of an Arch Manning or DJ Lagway 3 ways out or 3 years out because I think that could honestly be the move. But Myles Garrett wants to win now, so that is out of the picture. We can't even try and
Yeah,
experiment with that. Dylan Gabriel is probably the most pro-ready quarterback from day one, and he's probably going to be the guy that we go after here in the second or third round. But that is the, of course, updated top five. Any updates, shockers, spoilers next week? We will update you guys on the show here next week. But week 17 predictions in the books, episode 238. And that's really going to do it, Amir. This might be our last recorded episode of 2024.
Mm.
So thank you for making all your time and effort into showing up to the show as consistent as you have over, especially this NFL season. But to you guys at home, again, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. If you're going to spend time with friends and family, hopefully you enjoy it. But also just stay safe, right? It always gets crazy on the road there around holiday time. So Amir, any last thoughts here before we get out of here? Our last podcast together in 2024.
No last thoughts. Merry Christmas.
And Merry Christmas. And again, we'll see you guys next week.